Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Live Through Jesus podcast with Courtney. On this podcast, we're going to be talking about self-idolatry. This is the 10th commandment found in Deuteronomy 5 and Exodus 20. Quickly before we get started, if you're new to Live Through Jesus, make sure you go to livethroughjesus.com and sign up to receive your free 5-week Bible study over Abraham. There you'll also find blog posts that coincide with the teachings on this podcast and social media links, which is another way to keep in touch throughout the week. Okay, let's get started. How often do we see the things that other people have and wish that we had them too? Our friends are building a new house and they're getting everything that they want and it's just beautiful, and we're not getting anything new. We're living in some place that we've had for years and years. Things are beginning to break down and we wish that we were doing what they were doing. Or maybe they move into a great neighborhood or on a great piece of land, and we've always wanted land, or we've always wanted to live in the suburbs, and that's not a reality for us at the moment. Maybe they buy a new car or the newest piece of technology, and that's not something that we can have. It's easy to look at the things that other people have and wish that we have. That's where the old phrase, keeping up with the Joneses, came from. Everybody sees what the other person has and says, oh, I want to keep up with them. I want that too. I want that too. We can even do this not with material possessions, but with just the life that this other person has. They have a job, the dream job. And we had to take the first job that came along and now we're kind of stuck in it. Or their husband or wife seems so attentive and caring. They do all of the things that we wish that our husband or wife did. And we see that and we're like, man, I wish that it was like that for me. I wish that my husband cared about me in that way, or did that thing for me, or treated me in that way. Maybe they have tons of kids and you wish that you had lots and lots of children also, but instead you haven't been able to have any children. Or maybe you have tons of kids and you're always frazzled and life is hard and you're always trying to make ends meet and things are difficult. And you look at other people and they just have a couple of kids and this nice little house and this nice little yard, and they don't seem to be struggling at all. It's really easy in this day and age, in this Instagram culture, and we're seeing pictures of people and it looks like their life is just perfect, right? Because we can all capture that perfect little moment. We take these vacation photos and it looks like everything is great. And we're sitting at home on our couch with our kids running around dirty and screaming, right? And these people have this perfect little picture with this perfect little background, and they look like they're enjoying all of these fun things with their family, and we're not getting that. And so we have it, right? We wish that we had the things that other people have, notwithstanding that most likely their life isn't quite as perfect as it looks to be, right? Oftentimes when we have the nice house or the nice car or live in the great neighborhood, we don't have necessarily all the other things that we want, like maybe financial stability because we're spending all of our money. Or maybe we don't have the time with our family that we wish we had because we're trying to keep up with the Joneses, right? And then those Instagram photos, that was just a small moment in the grand scheme of this person's life, but it looks perfect. And so we want it. But most of the time it wasn't perfect. Most likely their kids were screaming like 2 seconds ago and they were filthy and dirty 2 seconds ago, right? They cleaned them up and they made them act prim and proper for just a moment, or even they took the silly photo, but it was purposeful. And so, they did that just for that second, but most of the time it isn't quite what it looks like. The perfect ideal life, first of all, doesn't exist. And second of all, usually isn't quite as perfect and ideal as what we might think. But we're all tempted to do it, especially, as I said, in this age when social media is so rampant and it's easy to capture something and make it look like it's something that it isn't. And it's so easy for all of us to sit there and look at that and say, man, I wish I had that. What a perfect family. What a perfect vacation. I love that car. I love that house. What a great yard. And so we cut it. And that's what today's lesson is all about. This is the last commandment, the last of the 10 commandments. And it deals not with the things that we do, but with the things that we think, the things that we feel, the things that maybe nobody knows but God. But they're a huge insult to him because he's given us this life. And whenever we covet what someone else has, we're rejecting what he's given to us. And it's an insult to him in so many more reasons. So let's just go ahead and get into this 10th commandment. It's found in Exodus 20:17 and also Deuteronomy 5:21. And I'm going to read from Deuteronomy. It says, you shall not covet your neighbor's wife. You shall not desire your neighbor's house, his field, his male servant, his female servant, his ox, his donkey, or anything else that is your neighbor's. Now, this is different than actually wanting that person's wife. When he says, you shall not covet your neighbor's wife, he's not saying lusting after her like the sin of adultery. He's saying what I was explaining before about just wishing that your wife was like that person's wife, not that particular woman. And so, whereas the first two commandments were forbidding the worship of other gods and carved images, this last commandment is really forbidding worship of ourselves. Listen to what it says in Colossians 3:5. Put to death, therefore, what is earthly in you, sexual immorality, impurity, passions, evil desire, and covetousness, which is idolatry. Ephesians 5:5 says the same thing, that coveting something is idolatry. It's self-idolatry. It's caring more about ourselves than we do about God and also than we do about others. So, remember we talked about the first 4 commandments is our relationship with God. And the last 5 really is our relationship with others. This one is our relationship with ourselves. This one deals with ourselves. And it says, I care more about myself than I do about God, and I also care more about myself than I do about others. This is about where our affections lie. 1 John 2:15-16 says, do not love the world or the things of this world. If anyone loves the world, the love of the Father isn't in him. For all that is in the world, the desires of the flesh, the desires of the eyes, and the pride of life, is not from the Father, but of this world. So he's saying you're making a choice when you love the things of this world over the things of God. It's showing that our love centers on ourselves and not on our Father, God, our Creator, our Savior. And it really reveals our discontentment and our selfishness and our dissatisfaction with what God's given to us. And also our just complete disregard for other people. Again, we're thinking about ourselves over him and over others. Ezekiel 33:1-32. Ezekiel 33:31-32 says, so they come to you as people do. They sit before you as my people, and they hear your words, but they don't do them. For with their mouth they show much love, but with their hearts they pursue their own gain. Indeed, you are to them as a very lovely song of one who has a pleasant voice and can play well an instrument, for they hear your words, but they don't do them. And so again, this is a sin of the heart. We can say all the things that we want to say. We can say all the good things and the right things, and we can look like we're not a sinner. But if in our hearts we only care about our own selfish desires, then we're sinning, even if nobody knows it but us and God. Philippians 2:21, for they seek their own interests and not those of Jesus Christ. And so I want to read you a couple of passages that really talk about this. We're just going to really examine this last commandment, what it looks like. And so Luke 12:13 all the way through 34. I'm going to read all of those verses. This is from the ESV version. It says, someone in the crowd said to him, this is Jesus, teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me. But Jesus said, man, who made me judge or arbiter over you? And he said to them, take care and be on your guard against all covetousness, for one's life doesn't consist of the abundance of his possessions. So this brother is trying to get Jesus to be on his side. And instead of getting in this dispute and being their referee, he says, no, I'm just going to get right down to the heart of the matter. I don't really care who gets your inheritance. That really doesn't matter to me, because you aren't identified by how much you have. This is not what matters to me. What actually matters to me is, what do you care about? And you're revealing to me right now that you care about possessions. That's your greatest need, your greatest importance when you come and talk to me, Jesus, is who's going to get everything when my dad dies? That's really what I care about the very most. And Jesus is like, this is not the most important thing. Jesus knows that wanting something that someone else has is only going to cause problems in a relationship anyway, right? This is just causing division between this man and his brother. And it's not worth it. And so after he tells this brother this, that it's not worth it, these are not the things that matters, he tells him this parable. And so this is Luke 12, beginning in verse 16. And so Jesus told them this parable and said, the land of a rich man produced plentifully, and he thought to himself, what should I do? For I have nowhere to store my crops. And he said, okay, this is what I'll do. I'll tear down my barns and I'll build bigger ones, and there I will store all the grain and all my goods. And I will say to my soul, soul, you have ample goods laid up for yourself for years. Relax, eat, drink, and be merry. But God said to him, you fool, this night your soul is desired of you, and the things that you have prepared, whose will they be? So is it to the one that lays up treasures for himself and is not rich towards God. And then he said to his disciples, therefore I tell you, don't be anxious about your life, what you're going to eat, or about your body, what you're going to put on. For life is more than food, and the body is more than clothing. Consider the ravens. They neither sow nor reap. They have neither storehouses nor barns, and yet God feeds them. Of how much more value are you than birds? Which of you, being anxious, can add a single hour to the span of his life? If you then are not able to do as small of a thing as that, then why are you anxious about the rest? He's like, you can't do anything about this anyway. What are you concerned about? Consider the lilies, how they grow. They neither toil nor spin. Yet I tell you, even Solomon in all his glory wasn't arrayed like one of these. But if God so clothes the grass, which is alive in the field today and tomorrow is thrown into the oven, how much more will he clothe you, O ye of little faith? Do not seek what you are to eat or what you are to drink. Don't be worried. For all the nations of the world seek after these things, and your Father knows that you need them. Instead, seek his kingdom, and then these things will be added to you. Fear not, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. Sell your possessions, give to the needy. Provide yourselves with money bags that don't grow old, with a treasure in the heavens that doesn't fail, where no thief approaches and no moth destroys. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. And so, the treasures of the heart. That's what Jesus wants this brother and us to be concerned with. The eternal treasures, the things that actually matter. He said, you're worrying about the wrong things. You're worrying about an inheritance. And then he gives this parable and says, not only do I not want you to worry about the riches of this world, the riches that your father may be giving to you, I want you not to even worry about what you're going to eat or what you're going to wear. Concern yourself more with God's kingdom and his righteousness. And then he'll make sure you have everything you need. No, you may not have everything that your neighbor has. That's true. But you'll have everything you need. God will provide for you. He knows your needs and he will provide for you. So trust him in that, and then place your mind, your thoughts on the things of God. Treasure those things. Those things matter the most. If you're like that guy in that other parable where he says, oh, look at all the things I have. I need to build bigger barns and then I'll have all of this stuff and I'll store it all up and then I'll be able to sit down and relax. That is something we covet, right? We want to build up our wealth so that we can retire, be done, get a little bit of rest, go play a little bit of golf, read a book, put up your feet, right? This is what we desire. And God says, if that's all that you're investing in, if you're spending all your time trying to store up for yourself riches on this earth so that you can put up your feet, then you may not make it to that time. And so instead, store up for yourself treasures in heaven. That means invest in your character. Invest in others. Learn about me. Know me. Build your relationship with me so that when you go to heaven and you're living your whole entire life with me, then you're enjoying it because you've been spending all this time with me anyway, and you get to heaven and you are joyous for that. And when I see you, I can say, you did good. You did good things on this earth. This is what really matters. Right now, it feels like these things matter, especially if you really are lacking clothes or food. These things seem to matter. Or if you're exhausted and you really just cannot wait to retire and get a little bit of rest, these things do matter. But God is trying to say these things are temporary. They're just temporary. And really what matters is eternity. And when you're living with me forever, your relationship with me, that's what matters. And then what you've done with the things that I gave you on this earth, I'm going to care about those things. And since you're going to be living with me forever, you want to care about the things that I care about. And so the things of this earth are not going to matter in the end. When we die, all that's going to matter is what we've stored up towards God. Psalm 49:17 says, for when he dies, he will carry nothing away. His glory will not go down after him. None of these things are going to matter in the end. They really are just temporary. If our affections are on him instead of on these things, then he'll provide all of these things, but we will also have treasures stored up for us in heaven. And then also catch this part where he says, this is verse 32, fear not, little flock, for your Father's good pleasure is to give you his kingdom. It pleases God to give us gifts, but the gifts that we seek and the gifts that really matter, the ones that he knows we need, those are different. And so God is going to bless us, but he wants us to focus on the right things. And so he says, don't worry about these things and definitely don't store them up. Give to other people that are in need. Share. Look to me. Seek after me. And then you'll have everything you need, and then you'll have treasures for eternity. Proverbs 21:26. He covets greedily all day long, but the righteous give, and they do not spare. The righteous don't hold back. They're not greedy for the things. But somebody that wants and isn't satisfied with what they have, they're going to want more and more and more and more. They're never going to be satisfied anyway. If we store up the things that are in heaven, those things can't be taken from us. Those things are lasting, unlike the physical, temporary things of this earth. Matthew 16:24-26. Then Jesus said to his disciples, if anyone desires to come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. For whoever desires to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. For what profit is it of a man to gain the whole world and lose his own soul? Or what will a man give in exchange for his soul? Whatever we spend our time, our money, our energy on is where our treasure is. And so he says, there's no point in spending your time, money, and energy on the things of this earth, because when you desire all of these things, you're denying your soul. You're denying the things that you need for eternity. What's the point if you gain all of this stuff but you don't have a relationship with Jesus? No point at all. 1 Timothy 6:6-10 says, now godliness with contentment is great gain. For we brought nothing into this world, and it can be certain that we will carry nothing out. Having food and clothing, with these we shall be content. But those who desire to be rich fall into temptation and a snare, and into many foolish and harmful lusts, which drown men in destruction and perdition. For the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil, for which some have strayed from the faith in their greediness and pierced themselves through with many sorrows. It pulls us away from Jesus. And when we're not close to God, we really only gain sorrow. Things only get more difficult. And so he wants us to be content with the things that he's given to us, not seek after more. Philippians 4:11-13 says, this is Paul speaking, and he says, not that I'm speaking of being in need, for I've learned in whatever situation I'm in to be content. I know how to be brought low, and I know how to abound. In any and every circumstance, I've learned the secret of facing plenty and hunger, abundance and need. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Wouldn't it be great to be able to say this? That I've learned in whatever situation I'm in to be content, whether I have a lot or I have a little. If I don't have very much, I know I have Jesus, and he's going to give me strength to get through. And when I do have a lot, I thank God for the blessings that he's given to me. If we could just say that. When we set our affections on the things of this earth, instead of on the one that's created all of the things, then we're completely missing the blessings that God has given to us. Have you ever heard of the God-shaped hole? People will tell you we all have a God-shaped hole in our lives, and only God can fill that hole. And so sometimes we feel this emptiness, and we're seeking after something, and we don't know what it is. And we think, well, when we get this thing, we'll be satisfied. Whenever I get this job, then I'll feel content. When I find my spouse, I'll be content. When I have children, I'll be content. When the children leave the house, I'll be content. When I get to retire, I'll be content. Whenever I achieve this goal or buy this thing, I'll be content. But if we're trying to fill this emptiness inside us that only God can fill, then we will never be content. So we first have to fill the God-shaped hole. We first have to fill the need within us to have a relationship with God. Then we'll be content with everything else, and we won't have to seek after more and more and more. King Solomon, the wisest one in all the Bible, He observed this in his own life. And so I'm going to read this to you. This is Ecclesiastes 2:4 all the way to 11. He says, I made my works great. I built myself houses and I planted myself vineyards. I made myself gardens and orchards and I planted all kinds of fruit trees in them. I made myself water pools from which to water the growing trees of the grove. I acquired male and female servants, and I had servants born in my house. Yes, I had greater possessions of herds and flocks than any and all who were in Jerusalem before me. I also gathered for myself silver and gold, and the special treasures of kings and of the provinces. I acquired male and female singers, the delights of the sons of men, the musical instruments of all kinds. So I became great, and I excelled more than all who were before me in Jerusalem. All my wisdom retained with me. Whatever my eyes desired, I did. I didn't keep from them. I didn't withhold my heart from any pleasure, for my heart rejoiced, and this was my reward from all my labor. And then I looked at all the works of my hands, everything that I'd done, and on the labor in which I toiled. And indeed, it was all vanity, a grasping of the wind. There was no profit under the sun. How sad. Solomon's saying he was rich in all the ways that mattered. Not only did he have things, but he had entertainment. He indulged himself in every single way. He worked hard and he had a lot of stuff. And at the end, he looked at all of it and he said, it's empty. It meant nothing. It was a grasping of the wind. I was trying to grab something and I never got it. It's that same thing I was talking about, the God-shaped hole. You're grabbing it and you're getting it and you're getting it and you're getting it and you're getting nothing. There's nothing there. It satisfies you none. Ecclesiastes 5:10, he says, he who loves money will not be satisfied with money, and he who loves wealth will not be satisfied with his income. You'll never make enough. Never make enough money. If that's where your focus is, you're never going to be satisfied. That misguided focus only drags you away from the Father that loves you and the Father that provides for you. You continue to love money more than you love God, then you're going to spend eternity without both. Because when you die, you can't bring that money with you. And if you haven't invested in a relationship with God, then that money's going to be gone. And you're also not going to have eternity with your loving Father who wanted to give you his kingdom, but you weren't concerned with that. You were building your own. Psalm 10:3 says, for the wicked boasts of his heart's desires. He blesses the greedy and renounces the Lord. The physical possessions that we have will not transfer over into the next life. And so we better be building up spiritual treasures. Galatians 5:16-17 says, but I say walk by the Spirit, and then you won't gratify the desires of the flesh. The desires of the flesh are against those of the Spirit, and the desires of the Spirit are against those of the flesh. They're opposed to each other to keep you from doing the things that you want to do. And then skip down to verses 24 and 25. Those who belong to Christ Jesus have crucified the flesh with its passions and desires. And so if we live by the Spirit, let us also keep step with the Spirit. So what he's saying is the things of this earth and the spiritual things are in conflict with one another. And so if you're seeking after one, you're neglecting the other. You can't desire both. Can you have both? Yes. You can have lots of things here on this earth and also have a relationship with God. But what are you seeking after? What are you investing in? What's all your time, energy, and focus going into? If you're placing all of your focus on these things, then your relationship with God will suffer. But if you're focusing on God, then he can add those things to you. You can still have those things, but they don't matter to you near as much as he does. And so it says, if we want to have a really good relationship with Jesus, then we have to crucify the things of the flesh. We have to put them aside, forget about them. Don't concern ourselves with them. And so focus on him and the things of his kingdom, because those are the only things that are lasting anyway. 1 Timothy 6:17-19 says, as for the rich in this present age, charge them not to be haughty, not to set their hopes on the uncertainty of riches, but on God, who richly provides us with everything to enjoy. They are to do good, to be rich in good works, to be generous and ready to share, storing up treasure for themselves as a good foundation for the future, so that they may take hold of that which is truly life. Don't place your trust in the things of this earth. They will let you down. You will never be satisfied with them. But put your trust in God, and he will richly provide. Richly provide everything for us to enjoy. God's the one that gave Solomon all of the things that he asked for. God says, I would much rather you be rich in good works, be generous and share, store up treasures that are going to matter for your future. All of these scriptures are telling us that some people seek after riches and then they pierce themselves through with many sorrows. Others are already rich. They believe that everything they have is of themselves. And this causes them to rest in themselves and not on the Lord, replacing all of their hope in the things that they have. And I think that this is what defines them. Why do we want so many things? It's usually for one of two reasons, either for our own selfishness to enjoy these things, or because we think that this is what makes us important. Maybe these are things that we value, or maybe we just think that this is what will make people value us. This is what makes us important. When everybody looks at us, they see these things that we have, and they look at this Instagram post, they're going to say, oh, she's important. She has good things. And then they're going to covet those things, and then that's going to make us feel important. How sad is that? We store up things like wisdom and the fruits of the Spirit, character traits, right? Then we're going to reap an abundant return for our investment. Abundant life is not really found on this earth. It's found in heaven. And so we want to invest in the things that are going to give us an abundant, eternal life. So I'm going to read you these last several verses, and then I'm going to close with a little bit of my own thoughts on the matter. So Psalm 119:36 says, incline my heart to your testimonies and not to covetousness. This is a prayer. Set my heart on the things that matter to you and not on wanting more and more and more. Proverbs 8:11. Wisdom is better than rubies, and all the things one may desire can't compare with wisdom. Nothing is more valuable to us than wisdom. Proverbs 14:14. The backslider in heart will be filled with his own ways, but a good man will be satisfied from above. Let God be your satisfaction. Be satisfied with him. He's the greatest treasure we can have. Romans 13:14. Put on the Lord Jesus and make no provision for the flesh to gratify its desires. So it's better to wear Jesus, wear the character of God. It's better to represent Jesus for people to look at us and see him than for people to look at us and see a perfect family, beautiful clothes, the perfectly done hair, the pretty face, beautiful house. the immaculately kept yard. It's better for people to look at us and see God than it is for people to look at us and see those things. Hebrews 13:5. Let your conduct be without covetousness. Be content with such things as you have. For he himself has said, I will never leave you or forsake you. So what he's saying here is, if you have God, then you don't need anything else. Be content with what you have. Be happy with what he's given to you. 1 Peter 4:2. Live no longer for human passions, but for the will of God. Desire what God desires. Think about that. What does God want? What does God want me to do? What does God want me to have? And then try to adjust your own desires for the desires of him. Pray for that. Ask that God help you to want what he wants. We can change our own feelings. We can change what we place our affections on. We may need God's help to do it, but we can do that. So I just want to end with this. You know, the message that we hear from our culture today is completely contrary to this. We are constantly being told to put ourselves first. We're being told we deserve to have these things. We deserve the nice car and the beautiful house and the great job and the fun time with friends, the perfect family, the best health. A loving God would want us to be happy after all, right? Happiness is really the most important thing. So I can miss church on Sunday if I'm too tired from whatever I did the day before, because God understands. He knows I need rest. Or maybe I need to work on Sundays. It's okay. I mean, God wants me to pay my bills. He wants my boss to be proud of me. A good reputation matters to God, right? Maybe our culture says, if my parents don't treat me right, I don't have to honor them. It's their fault after all. Their rules and restrictions are stupid anyway. Constantly standing in the way of my fun doesn't make me happy to obey their rules. So I shouldn't have to. My parents should care about my happiness. God does. What about this one? I'm not ready to have a baby yet. I'm too young. It's going to get in the way of my career. So it's okay to terminate this pregnancy, and then I'll have a baby later whenever I'm ready, when I'm stable, when I have some money, got this career under my belt. God wouldn't want that kind of life for me, right? I'm not ready. It wouldn't be good for the baby. It'll be better whenever I'm in a loving relationship and we can give them a stable home, a mom and a dad. This man's not ready to be a father yet any more than I am ready to be a mom. It's just not the right time. Or maybe we have found that person and we're married, but we're not happy. God wouldn't want me to spend the rest of my life like this, right? Kids will be much better off with two parents that aren't fighting, that get along, that love them, and all of our focus is on them, and we're not having to try to focus on this marriage that's just tearing us down. Kids will be better off. The world tells us that our husband takes us for granted. He never tells us we're pretty anymore. He doesn't think anything we do is important. It's been years since you've felt loved, since you've been happy. And so it's okay to find somebody else that'll pay a little more attention to you, make you feel special. If he wanted you to stay, he should have treated you right. It's his loss. You deserve better. Maybe the world says it's not a big deal to cheat your boss out of a couple of hours' pay. He can afford it. As a matter of fact, why aren't the rich people paying more in taxes anyway? They just help me out a little bit. I wouldn't have to work at this job that I hate anyway. It's not going to hurt them. We are constantly bombarded with messages that say it's all about me. It's all about me. I deserve it. My happiness is all that matters. All of these commandments, God understands if I break them because he wants me to be happy. And he knows that I don't have a lot. He doesn't want me to be lacking. As Christians, we have to guard ourselves against these things because we're going to be constantly bombarded with these words. And our feelings say, yeah, I deserve this. I work hard. I've been good. It is not about us. That's why all of these commandments are about God and others. He's first addressing our relationship with him so that we see that's the most important thing. And then he addresses our relationship with others because how we relate to others matters to him. And he says, you're last. Looking out for number one is not God's intention for us. He says, if you will look to me, then I'll look after you. And if we take care of others, God will take care of us. Our focus is supposed to be off of ourselves. This is so hard. This is so hard, especially when you don't have the things that you want, whether they be material things or the marriage that you want or the job that you want. It is really hard. These are easy traps to fall into. When you feel like you've been and done everything that you're supposed to and you're still lacking something that you really do believe that God would want for you, a good marriage, and yes, a happy life, it's hard. And when the world is constantly telling us you deserve this, this is important. You're not wrong for wanting something for yourself for a change. It's so hard. So I get it. And that's the reason God has to have a commandment against self-idolatry, because he knows that this is going to be a difficult thing for us. And so he has to make a commandment against it. Just want to end with this little song. Lord, you're more precious than silver. Lord, you're more costly than gold. Lord, you are more beautiful than diamonds. Nothing I desire compares with you. This should be our heart's desire. We should seek after the things that God wants for us, and then he will add all of the other things to us. If you feel like you're lacking, instead of trying to take what you want, focus on God. Focus on pleasing him and let him provide all the things that you're lacking. Fill the hole in your life with him, and then all of the rest of the things won't seem so big. He'll help you either change your desires or get what you are lacking. Focus on him. And when we're lacking things, say, God, if this is not something that I need to want, then help me not to want it. And show me what I should want. And help me place my affections there. And if this isn't wrong to be wanting, if I really am lacking something that you want me to have, then give it to me. That's our best way to get the things that are important. So think about where your treasures lie today. I know I have. I've been thinking, this whole lesson is like, what am I placing my time, my energy, my focus on? How much am I thinking about myself? How much am I thinking about God? How much am I thinking about others? This is hard, but the more we place our affections on God, the less we will place our affections on the things of this earth. So be encouraged in that. He will help us. The things that matter to him can become our heart's desire too. So next week, we will just sum up all of the commandments. Jesus says that all of these commands can be summed up in just one word, which is love. And so that'll be an encouraging episode. So again, make sure that you subscribe so you don't miss that. And then go to my website, livethroughjesus.com, read the blog post that has to do with this lesson. and any of the others that are there. Also, join me on social media because I'll be posting a lot of these verses. I know we talked about a lot of verses this week, but I'll be posting a lot of them on social media throughout the week, so you can kind of, get them in your minds. So make sure that you join me there. And then I'll just see y'all back next time. Thanks and have a good day.